Imagine you and your spouse just had your first baby prematurely, and because of complications with the birth, the baby had to be sent to the neonatal intensive care unit and the mother to ICU, both to be stabilized. Pretty traumatic, right? Now imagine that because this birth happened early, you weren't financially prepared for one of you to be off of work for an extended period of time yet, not to mention the unexpected hospital bills that you know will be coming your way. As if the birth wasn't traumatic enough, now the father has to juggle his time between the hospital and taking care of things at home while continuing to go to work because the bills still have to be paid. Now, how productive do you think this father will be at work in this situation? And how do you think the mother is coping with not only her own recovery, but the concern of the health of her baby while still worrying about how they're going to make ends meet financially? Now, my example is a little bit extreme, but many Americans, even who have a normal full-term birth, still struggle financially in these situations. So unfortunately, this is a reality for many Americans today. In America, there is no law stating that employers must provide a paid leave after parents give birth or adopt a new baby. In 1993, Bill Clinton did pass the FMLA Act, which said employers have to provide 12 weeks of unpaid leave to new parents. However, who can really go 12 weeks without one or both incomes? Also, many employers will offer a short-term disability policy in which a percentage of your income is withheld from each check. And when the time comes, you can receive 60% of your income. They will typically give you 6 weeks for a natural delivery and 8 weeks for a cesarean delivery. In either case, neither one is long enough. So the laws today in America do not provide enough time or resources for mothers to recuperate and bond with their babies. But in America, where traditions are strong, the theory of a paid parental leave has long been rejected by lawmakers. Rachel Gillett, a former editor for Business Insider, observed a study in 2017 done by MSN where they polled, and it was shown that 93% of women, or 93% of Americans, believe that women should receive some type of paid leave after giving birth, and 85% of men should receive some type of paid leave after having a new baby. So why hasn't this happened yet? Americans have always feared a rise in taxes, and many lawmakers would say that if we did have higher taxes, there are a multitude of things that money could be spent on. Is this true? Yes. But is a paid parental leave policy necessary in this country? Absolutely. Americans have also always valued the individualistic culture, meaning that you and you alone are in control of your destiny. So the responsibility of raising your children financially is yours and not that of taxpayers. So a government-backed paid parental leave really goes against the American dream. But despite these fears, many countries across the globe that are well established have successfully passed a paid family leave act or a paid parental leave act. And so we know that it can be done. In Sweden, for example, they offer 480 days of 80% of your pay for both parents leave. And sure, they do pay higher taxes, but their culture is accepting of that because of the benefits. Jen Christensen and Kelly Wallace with CNN looked at 20 studies done in 2015 done by psychologists and psychiatrists of the effect of a paid leave versus the effect of non-paid leaves. The paid leaves showed that there was a 10% reduction of infant mortality because parents are able to stay home and care for their babies stress-free. And they also showed that more infants received their well visits, which resulted in 25.3% more getting their measles vaccination and 22.2% more getting their measles or their polio vaccinations. It also showed that the duration of breastfeeding was longer, which studies have long showed the benefits of that for the health of the babies, and it also reduces the risk of breast and ovarian cancers in women. Another positive is the fathers being able to be at home more after the baby is born, which benefits everyone. So in a study done by Anita Hataja, a senior researcher with a PhD, showed that in the countries that they do have a paid parental leave, fathers still take the minimum amount of time, but they are still taking time off, which has many benefits. One of them being gender neutrality, which makes it to where the women do not feel that the taking care of children is all on them, and the men do not feel that bringing home the income is all on them, because they can provide those days of paid leave amongst themselves however they see fit for their families. It also helps the mother while they are recuperating from the delivery, and it helps the father establish a better relationship with the child at an early age. In another study done by Amin, Islam, and Sakonic in 2015, it showed that women were 6.8% more likely to return to work after being on a paid maternity leave than the ones that were not paid to be on leave. All of this leads me to the Mandatory Paid Parental Leave Act, which would go as follows. Families would be eligible to receive up to 395 days paid leave at 60% of their income. 30 of those days would be given to women to use before the birth, and 90 of those days would each be given to both of the parents to use at whenever they want to, but they are for them to use and them only. The exception to this rule would be a single parent, in which case they can use all 180 days. The remaining 185 days could be split between both parents as they see fit. So how would this get paid for? Much like short-term disability, we would introduce an optional tax so that it would not impose a tax on all Americans. But if you wish to receive this benefit, you must pay this tax until you are 50 years of age. That would prevent people from abusing this and only paying for it when they need it. They would have to be employed for at least 1 year prior to conception, and the employer would need to hold their position or one similar to it as long as the employee had been with them for at least a year. Both parents would have to be enrolled in this tax for them to receive the full benefit. So for example, if only one parent were enrolled, they would get their 90 days plus 30 that were the mother, and then the remaining 185 days. So I feel that with these rules that the tax would not be abused and that it would be effective for those that need it. So as Americans, the future of our country is our responsibility. And with the rising costs of child care today, and with women's desire to be treated as equals in both the workplace and at home, many families and women are choosing not to have children. And those that do are faced with a difficult situation of deciding whether or not to return back to work or stay home to care for their newborns, both of which they feel a strong obligation to. So with the Mandatory Paid Parental Leave Act, I feel that the family unit would once again become a strong thing in America. Thank you.